Come on, Thrive, would you stand with me? And let's join together. Let's give Pastor Africa the warmest. Joburg, Thrive, welcome.
Amen. Thank you very much. Don't you think you've got the coolest pastor here? And the fact that he can pronounce my surname means that he gets another star. I'm either Mhlophe, Mhlophe, or he just said, Afrika Mhlophe. I'm like, wow, that's impressive. But right, thank you very much. You may take your seats. And so I've heard that you've been doing a series on the idea of no other gods. So I hope that I can add a little bit of a certain element to this exploration that you've been going through. And my focus will be in the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 26, if you can page there. I'm from a city called, well, I went to sleep, it was called Port Elizabeth, and I woke up, it was called Gqeberha. So a lot of things take place when you are sleeping. So apparently there was a consultation, and 400 people agreed to change the name of the city. Yeah, so just make sure that you don't one day in Boxback is called something else. Just be alert. These people can do things while you are sleeping. So Paul, the Apostle Paul, goes to a city called Athens, right? And so cities are very important to God's eyes and God's sight. And there he is moved by a certain orientation of these people. One, they are very religious, and two, they're very philosophical. And there's a Europagus there. There's a whole point of just meeting together to pontificate and throw around different ideas and stuff. And Paul goes and says, wow, you men of Athens are religious because I see different altars to different gods. And I even see an altar written to an unknown God. And begins to talk about this God. He focuses on that altar and uses that altar as a point to reveal the unknown God. And one of the things he does within that framework is to dispel and to refute certain dominant ideas that were there in Athens. And in verse 26, which we're focusing on, one of the things that Athens had embraced was that human beings come from the ground. They ascend from the ground. So they didn't have creationism as we have. They didn't have a cosmology or idea of where we come from. So people on the earth will ask generally three main questions. Where do we come from? Why are we here? And where are we going? Those are questions that deal with background, that deal with existence, why we exist, and what is our future destinies like. So Paul then says in Acts 20, verse 26, and he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined allocated periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place. So in this verse, we see a couple of things. The first one is that human beings, they all originate from one person. So the first thing that Adam did, it talks about the common origin of humanity, tracing them back to Adam. It's very important to start there, because sometimes you'll hear people talking about, let's go back to where we come from. So whenever people want to do something, they will rationalize it by saying, I'm retracing my roots, or I'm going back to where I come from. But conveniently, they will go far, but not far enough. So when people say to me, let's go back, I say, go back far. How far do you want us to go? But many people will go back, but they won't go back only 600 years ago, 800 years ago. But the ancestor you trace yourself from, where does he come from? Why do you start there? Why don't you just go before and on and on and on and on and on until we get back to Adam and Eve again? No, but we can't, because it becomes inconvenient for us to go back that far, because then we have to sort of own up the idea that we all come from God and we are all accountable to God. Right? So we'll trace ourselves to a point that conveniently suits us. But we will be ahistorical or historically practicing historical revisionism, but we will not be historically accurate unless we trace ourselves back to Adam and Eve. So human beings, despite their ethnic difference, language differences, and many other things, they have one common ancestor, and that is Adam. So Christians have a particular understanding of the world which we live. Our cosmology puts God at the center of creation. So we don't believe in the Big Bang. We don't believe in accidental things. We believe things were planned. We believe that there is a first cause. We believe that there is a designer. We believe that there is an intelligence behind our creation. We don't believe that my nostrils, I don't believe that the hair within my nose was there by mistake. I don't believe anything was just plugged in there, like glued in there, or just stuck itself in there. And everything serves a purpose and is placed there by a creative God who knows all things, right? So that's what Christians are about. And so the next thing we see there is that he says he determined the boundaries of the allocation, which means that the dispersal of nations to various parts of the earth is God's plan. All of it in fulfillment of Genesis 1:27, where he says, populate the earth, replenish the earth. So we see there. So therefore our geographical locations are not a mistake. Where we find ourselves in right now at this point, it's God's providential plan. So we're not here by mistake. Even the people who've migrated or moved, we believe the hand of God was in the background, instrumental in their movements throughout the earth, right? So we see that. So Paul almost like locates various powerful things in one verse. Made all nations from one blood, origination. He made all nations on earth and determined the boundaries of the allocation. And so one of the things we see there is that human beings, we're not from one blood. So blood is not a race, blood is a type, right? So if you, God forbid, you have blood loss and you refuse blood from a different racial group, you will die, right? You will die, not of blood loss so much, but of ignorance. So like they'll have to write in your tombstone, here is a person who died needlessly. Should not have died. I said, I don't want a person, blood from a colored person. Me, I'm black. They'll say, okay, he's dead because he was ignorant. There's no blood of a colored person, there's a type. Is that type O or type B? Blood is a type, it's not a race. The same blood flows in all of us. So they will say to you, here's a person who died who should not have died, but was ignorant. So God created people in his image. Notice that he never created people who are called white or black. He said, let us make man in our image, not let's make a black man or a white man. So black or white are social political terms, they're man-made terms. People call us white or black, not God. Creature, not creator. Right? Because when they name you, they can control you. Whoever in Hebrew culture, whoever names a product or whoever names something has authority over what he names. All right. So we have now. I don't know about you, but I don't know what's black about me. Right? This microphone is black, and I don't look like this. By far, I don't. So, and consequently, I've never met a white person. I've traveled to various parts of the world. This shirt is white. I haven't met anyone who looks like this. I've met many pinkish people, but not white people. So these things don't fully describe who we are. They don't fully describe who we are. But we are supposedly forced to accept these labels and therefore have to adhere to what the label comes with. The label is fully loaded with certain values and certain belief system. And then if you don't follow that, you then be given names. Like me, like you are not black enough. I like whatever that means. Or you are God forbid, you're a coconut. Black outside, white inside. I've been trying not to be coconut, but it's not very easy. Because there's certain things that black people do and white people do, right? Like white people, if you have not grasped it by now, drink a lot of coffee. It's just a white thing. There is a reason there's no coffee shops in the townships. There's a reason for that. So we're not about to have meetings and have coffee throughout the day and buy coffees here and buy coffees there. That's not how we roll. We buy coffee for the house for the month. Right? So this thing of coffee shops everywhere is new to us. Why people drink so much coffee that in Port Elizabeth, they'll go to the beach to walk the beach, which is wonderful. But they'll have a caravan there. Somebody with coffee, selling coffee, because they can't even walk the beach without coffee following them. Like, do you want more coffee? It's amazing. There's coffee everywhere. So, and then black people now are getting there and we're becoming a little bit of snobs. So forgive me. I'm serious. I mean, if I visit your house and you want to do me instant, and there are certain instant, but there's levels. There's level I will not drink. I won't mention the name because maybe the company's owners are here. I don't want to. But the level that I will say, please, water, just water. Just water. I will have water. No. I'm not drinking that thing. That thing, I'm not drinking it. I will have water, thank you, please. There's no way I'm drinking that thing. I grew up on that thing. I have trauma just looking at that thing. There's no way I'm drinking that thing. It's reminding me of trauma and pain and poverty and all kinds of things. So I'm not drinking that thing. Another thing we see in Acts 17:26, when it says he determined the boundaries of the allocation, we see the sovereignty of God over the history and the affairs of nations. That nations do not just form themselves, that God's hand is there and is sovereign over nations, right? And so that's very important. Now let's look at Athens itself, the city of Athens, the importance of Athens and their philosophical pursuits. Athens people are very proud of themselves, that they know and they pontificate. I mean, they talk about Paul, what will this babbler tell us? Let's come and listen to this new knowledge. So they were very proud of going around spewing new ideas. The word philosophy means a study of fundamental questions about the existence, knowledge, values, reason, mind, language, seeking wisdom through critical inquiry and reflection on our deeper assumptions. So the Athens were curious about the world around them. That is great. And they came up with all kinds of theories as to why are we here, how did we get here. Now you notice that every nation on earth has its own philosophical pursuit or corner. So you'll hear something like African philosophy or whatever. You hear things like decolonization, like pedagogy, like knowledge systems must be reconstructed, revisited, and why are knowledge systems that are indigenous seeming suppressed? What about African indigenous knowledge? There's some powerful concepts there, by the way, in Africa. If you look at the wisdom of Africans and the building of the pyramids at Giza and in Egypt and the Institute in terms of the uncovering of ancient manuscripts that showed Africans traded in Africa before the arrival of Europeans here. And they had some discoveries. So therefore, ancient stuff is not always primitive, antiquated, or has not value in itself. I mean, not everything is imported, is brought by Europeans in Africa. Some of the stuff existed here. If you look at the Khoisan people, the discovery of the use of root system and different plants in terms of their healing properties, no one taught them that stuff. They're self-taught. Their ability to trace spores of animals and their drawings obviously in caves, which are still now being viewed as ancient manuscripts, that just shows how powerful they were in their own innate way of expressing civilization, right? So God had his hand on nations even before they knew about God. And he put himself there. And the Athenians had their own particular worldview. A worldview is your view of the world. Every one of you has a worldview, even if you're not aware of your worldview. Every person has a view of the world, even if you're not conscious of your worldview. What we're hoping for is that your worldview is biblical. It's Christ-centered. That you have a worldview, that's for sure. The question is it biblical? Meaning, do you see the world the way God sees it? Or is your worldview materialistic, or is it humanistic? Is it animistic? There is a worldview. You must just align it to God's view, right? That's the important thing. And so, now, it says here, when you look at, when you go back to the text, And then it says, when it continues in verse 27, that he made them, and that they, the nations that he made, different nations. Now, the difference in nations, so diversity is God's plan. So God made from one blood of man all nations on earth. So God is a God of diversity. So God is not disturbed or perturbed by diversity. He made all nations on earth and determined the boundaries of their location. So different nations, different geographical locations. But when Paul then explains the reasoning behind this, because it's important to not only locate what is truthful of the statement, but the reasoning why God did this. The word for then is used there in order to explain to us, and a conjunctive word, a word that brings together two thoughts. And it says that they, the nations, may seek after God. In other words, that ethnic diversity and geographical locations and different language structures and all of that is not a pretext for the nations to create their own regional deities. So it doesn't give nations the reasoning for them to create their own gods. So there's no need for national gods because there are different nations. Same God who made different nations did not give nations the right to create their own national or tribal gods. That they may all, different as they are, seek after this one universal God, although he's not far from any one of them. The nations are far from each other, but God is not far from them. You know what I'm saying? So, now the African continent is the most ethnically diverse place on earth. There's over 3,000 different tribes, speaking over 5,000 different dialects. We've been told that diversity is a strength, but sometimes it becomes a weakness. An example is what happened in Rwanda, 1993, the genocide that took place, killings, 800,000 people killed in 100 days of orgy, and that's because of ethnic diversity. I think Samora Michel, former president of Mozambique, once made a statement. He said, for a nation to live, the tribe must die. For a nation to live, the tribe must die. In other words, you cannot build nationhood alongside tribalism. You've got to put down tribalism if you want to raise up nationhood. And as South Africans, we have not mastered this. We've been a sum of parts. We've been just coming together, there's no sense of nationhood or national vision or a sense of cohesive. We're just different parts brought together, and sometimes we don't even know how to make this work, right? We're stuck on that. And as a result of it, we find a situation where we all have derivative names for God. In other words, every group of people have a name for God. Now, listen to this. The name for God defines the entity or the position or the being or the idea of a supreme being. It doesn't define who the person is. Okay, let me explain to this. People say to me, but Africans have always believed in God before the arrival of Europeans. No. Africans have always believed in the idea of God, but not in. Okay, you may believe in the chair, in the idea of a chair, but your belief must correspond with action by you sitting on the chair. Believing on the chair but refusing to sit on it means your belief has no corresponding action. It's faith without works, it's dead. It's not having any impact in your life. It's abstract, it's theory. You believe in the chair by entrusting your weight on the chair. So therefore, the idea of God is universal. The identity of God is not. That's why we don't just now sing songs to God as we grew up, some of us, in nominal Christianity. We give our lives to God. Because we don't just placate or patronize God by believing in him in a very abstract way. We actually entrust the security of our lives to him and allow our actions to follow suit. That's different. So therefore, the idea of God has always existed all over the world, but God has not been known all over the world. In fact, it's impossible to know God without knowing the Bible. You can know about God, but not God. because God has revealed himself in two ways, through natural revelation and through special revelation. Through nature, Psalms 19, creation testifies of the glory of God. But to know who he is, Moses asked this question, that when you sent me there, who shall I say sent me? In other words, he's seeing the miracle, seeing the burning bush, he's seeing the supernatural act, but he wants to know the being behind the act. And God answered Moses, Ahe, Ashe, Ahe in Hebrew. I am who I am. It was basically saying, I am dash dash. It was giving him a blank check. Whatever the people need, I am. They need shelter, I am. Right. That's why when Jesus made that statement to the Pharisees, they took up stones. Because they knew that he's not speaking I am the way we understand English. He was referring to that ancient, and not I was and I will be, but present help in times of need. Right? And so the Hebrew people have a greater understanding of God because of the Hebraic names of God, which all of them represent different characteristics and nature and attributes of who God is. Behind every name is a sum total of God's attributes locked in that name. So the names are not arbitrary. They're not inconsequential. They reveal the person who bears the name. So God, therefore, doesn't just heal, he is healer. He doesn't just love, he is love. Meaning for love to end, God must end. Meaning you can't live long enough for God to hate you. You have no capacity within you. You have no capacity. Even if you try, you can't make God hate you. For God to hate you, he must stop being God. He doesn't love you because you are lovable. He loves you because he can do nothing else but love. Right. Why do I mention these things? Why do I mention these things? It's not to impress you with my theology. I mention these things because the other understanding of God in other religions is vastly different from that. Other religions present a God who's uninterested in the affairs of men. A God who we have to go and find out, who we have to go and locate, who we have to find ways to him, to reach to him. A God we must work to please. A God we must help to placate and to appease. They present to us a works-based system. How to get to God. Christianity is vastly different. It tells us what God has done to get to us. It's a grace-based system, not a works-based system. He came to his own. That's vastly different. Every religion on earth tells you what you must do to get to God. Christianity tells us what God has done to get to us. So now when you look at the structure of African philosophy, African spirituality, it tells us the idea of God. So we take that, okay, there is some idea of monotheism, however loosely constructed it is. But it's not exclusive monotheism, it's inclusive monotheism. Meaning that belief in one God is called a monotheism. Theo means God. Mono obviously means one. So there are three major monotheistic religions in the world. It's Judaism, it's Islam, it's Christianity. So those who are here, they will tell us African spirituality is largely monotheistic. But what they will not tell us is that it's not exclusive monotheism. It's inclusive. I mean, it includes other minor deities. Whereas God says, you shall have no other gods before me. The word other is a Hebrew idiom which means next to me or in addition to me. You shall have no other God before me. Meaning, no addition. You have me and only me. Right? So, the structure of African spirituality, sometimes it's not African religion because Africans don't have religion. Religion is very formalized. African spirituality is the best way of describing it because it's very pervasive and ubiquitous. It's not formal. In African world, you don't convert to African spirituality, you're born into it. You only convert out. You are automatically assumed to be a follower of African spirituality unless proven otherwise. It's what you are born. It's called ethno-religious. Ethnicity and religion. They're like, you don't believe in ancestors? You don't consult the dead? Yo. I said, no, I don't. Yo. I said, the dead are dead. Like they're dead. And dead people do not speak because they're dead, right? It's like duh. Like dead people don't speak. And so I don't consult the dead. I don't visit them. I don't visit graves. I don't put up tombstones. I don't bring flowers to graves. I don't do anything to graves. I bury and I go. It's finished. The room went quiet. Yeah, so you need to know this finality. You know, one of the things about in the Old Testament, there was a period of mourning. A period why? So that mourning ends. So the mourning doesn't become open-ended. Because God knew if it doesn't end, it will open itself up to other spiritual matters. So they had to end mourning for Moses. Moses must have is dead. Joshua, arise. Meaning stop saying around, it's time to move on. Moses is dead. So it's important for us to deal with death properly. Death, I was saying in a funeral yesterday in PE before I flew up here, that death is not cultural. Right? Death is not cultural. Death is universal. Dogs die. There's no culture there. Cats. Stop creating a religion around death. Death is death. Death is like life. Like things live, things die. There's no belief there. It's just reality. The question is always, where do people go? Like Luke chapter, you know the book of Luke, the story of a rich man and Lazarus, Luke 16. By the way, that's my sermon for funerals. By that I mean that until God speaks otherwise, it's my stand-in sermon. It's like, so I reveal a secret. I have a sermon. I have a stand-in sermon. I don't seek God a lot until He tells me. I've got a sermon permanently existing, ready. Luke 16, verse 19 to 31. The rich man and Lazarus. So I tell the people, everyone dies. The rich people say, yes, pastor, even the rich, they die. So I go with them nicely from that point onwards. They love me until a certain point. When I then talk about where they go, I said, no, the rich man went to hell. It says in the scripture. In hell, he lifted up his eyes and cried out, Father Abraham, please send Lazarus to dip his finger in my tongue because I'm in torment in this fire. So I explain based on that there's two places to go to. There's no other middle place. You don't float around, you don't come back, you don't bother us, you go somewhere. Right? Based on that. And then if your grandma comes around and bothering you, that she's uncomfortable or she's thirsty, that grandma, unfortunately, did not make it. It's not me saying it. It's that parable. The only person who complains is not the one in heaven. Lazarus, not complaining. So now at this point, the room is not happy with me. I've seen men walking out just at that point. They live at moon. They were with me all along until that point. Walk away. Because people love the Bible when it agrees with them. Love it when it agrees with them. Disagrees with them, they're getting offended. So therefore, if you have a dream from grandma and she's thirsty, or hungry, or cold, I can assure you, grandma is coming to announce to you that she did not make it. Because you cannot be in heaven and be thirsty. It's impossible. John 4, Jesus said to the woman of the well, if you drink of this water, you shall thirst again. But if you drink of this water, you shall never thirst again. Right? So we are struggling because now some of us are a bit ambiguous about these things. Because we want to be loyal to families and loyal to Jesus. But now we are struggling because the two things, some of them, Jesus even said that, I haven't come to bring peace, I've come to bring division, I've come to bring a sword. If you're not prepared to follow me, if you're not prepared to put up your hand on the plow and look straightwards, if you look back, you're not worthy to be met disciple. If you're not even prepared to love, to hate, word hatred is not used for opposite of love, it's used for preference. Love and hatred are phrases of preference. In Scripture, it's not about feelings or animosity. So if you're not prepared to hate mother, you're not prepared to, you can't be my disciple. Jesus is very strong. Let the dead bury the dead. Very strong language. So as Africans, we have to deal with this ambiguity, where we almost feel like we must have a regionalized theology. We must bring theology to a point where it suits an African context. But it doesn't work like that. We believe theology is universal. We believe the truth can be contextualized, but we believe that contextualization of divine truth mustn't bring decentralization of Jesus. So the center must remain, although the message should be contextualized. But the message must not change, but its presentation can change. Right? So now we're dealing with a God here who is not beholden to our views of him, who's not dependent on our opinions of him, who presents himself who he is, regardless of what we think of him. So he's not subject to our belief. He's God all by himself. We found him God, we will leave him here as God. Whether we believe in him or not doesn't change the nature of God. God is not having a self-esteem issue. That you don't believe in me? I feel bad. No. Believing in God is for our own good, not for his good. Right? So, God is not accessed through ancestors. All right? It's not. The dead don't speak to God on our behalf. They never speak to God on our behalf. There is one dead person who died and rose again, who speaks to God, who's a high priest, right? Who's sitting on the right hand of the Father. That's the one who speaks to God on our behalf. That's the one whose blood speaks better things than the blood of goats and bullocks. That's the one who speaks forgiveness and mercy on our behalf. That's the one who says in John 14 verse 6, that no one comes, I am the way, that no one comes to my Father. This one you call God is the Father of Jesus Christ. It says no one knows the Father except the Son, who comes from the Father. Right? And so he's the one who speaks to God on our behalf. So the structure of African philosophy, African religion, is that it's based on the idea. African religion, by the way, please, it's not based on the worship of God. Don't let people lie to you. God is not worshipped. God is not feared. God is never honored. As a matter of fact, I was raised to fear everything else except God. To fear witches, togoloshes, everything else. They even said to you, don't mention that name. Be careful. But God, we disrespect, we dishonor every day. Name of Jesus, we use it as so word, but these other spirits, we fear them. I mean, the ancestors, purportedly, they speak on God's behalf, we are told. But they never say anything God is saying. They make demands on their own behalf. Imagine I'm the spokesperson of the president, but I demand you respect me. Hey, if you don't respect me, I will kill you. You're like, oh, wait, you're a spokesperson. Why are you the one now terrorizing us? If you don't, I will kill. I mean, imagine you are called to be a Sangoma witch doctor and supposed to be a gift. But if you don't take this gift, I'll kill you. A gift. A gift. What kind of a gift is this? You dare not take my gift? I am not sure about this gift of yours. Right? Who supposedly must believe that there are spirits that only target black people. And so some people go to the gravesite to bury their loved ones, and they come back, they wash their hands. I don't know if you do this here in Gauteng, but they don't wash their hands for hygiene. Please don't lie to me. 200 people standing in one queue, one bucket, and one towel. Not hygienic at all. I promise you, nothing hygienic about that. So we stand, and then the truth is that we fear. We fear. It's superstition. If I don't wash my hands, the spirit of death will strike me. Yes. So I always ask questions. I'm like, okay, there's a spirit there in the graves, in the cemetery, that let a white person, if you don't wash your hands, you can pass on a white. You black person, when are you? You dare not wash your hands, eh? Yeah. We'll kill you. So we're supposed to believe that the spirits which only target black. I'm like, white people. Have you seen white people's their funerals? Have you been there? Very short. Everything they do is cheap. White people are very cheap. Very cheap. Very cheap. Stingy. I mean, they build chapels for small. I mean, have you seen a church in the township with a chapel? What is that thing? 50 people seater for a funeral, for a wedding. Everything there is small. Only RSVP. What is RSVP? What's this thing of confirm you're coming? What is this business? Now we cater for the whole village, not RSVP. It's stingy. So they build chapels for 50 people. Because they always have a list. You must see the list. Now we say, our daughter's getting married. We announce to the village. We invite you. You might come with 4 of your friends without telling us. There must just be enough food. Because we don't know what may happen. So we have that. And therefore, but look at their funerals. Ne? I asked my white friends, guys, how do you bury Nina? Because you bury your loved ones. You speak long speeches. You don't eulogize. Now we give them suit and we bring flowers for the first time when somebody's dead. And we go to town to make sure the person rests in peace. I mean, we make sure. We build tombstones like a house. We do things to make sure this one rests in peace. We beg him. We beg him. Please rest. Please rest. Rest. Please rest. Hey! 2 weeks later, Booty's back. He's angry. Like what? What must we do? What else? We suffered under apartheid. We have no money. We have no build. We're still suffering. You want me to do for you a cow? Where is the cow? What cow? You know I'm poor. You left me here poor. Where am I going to get a cow for 20,000 rands? You where? So we must make loans. Slaughter cows. We can't afford. Why don't white people who own farms and own cows? At least, they should ask white people for cows. They have the cows and the goats there. No, we don't have them. We must go and buy them. Because grandma is angry. I'm tired of these people. Always angry. I mean, they've never had ancestors they're happy. Always angry. They've got mood problems. They have mood issues. They have psychological problems, these ancestors. Always angry. I said, no, it's enough now. So I've never visited my parents' graves. We buried my mother in 1989, unfortunately. I grew up as an orphan. 1989, 18th of November, 2nd of December, 18th of November she died. 2nd of December, 89, we buried her. I have never been to a grave ever since. I don't need to go. I've never been there. I don't know where the grave is. And I don't know. Yo. It's done. It's painful, but it's done. Oh, just for clarity, I've loved no woman like I've loved her. It's not that there was a problem in the relationship. I've never been loved by any person as I was loved by her. But I knew it's done. There's no hatred for her, no animosity. Her memories, her teachings, her raising her, still kept it. Still haven't forgotten. Her instilling of discipline, financial management, discipline, stewardship, all of those things, I've still kept them. Her memory, I've still kept it. But I don't need to visit her grave. There's nothing for me there. Because I don't want to be caught up in some confusion. Because the visiting of the graves straddle lanes towards another belief system. It's done for good reasoning, but it can actually find itself tapping into good motive, but it could find itself swayed into. The emotion, the grief can sway you over into some stuff that can hold you captive. So we're closing on that.